I'm Melissa Rayberger. Here's what's happening. Scientists say the oil in the Gulf of Mexico will move into the so-called loop current soon and start drifting toward the fragile ecosystems around the Florida Keys. The White House is establishing a presidential commission to investigate the cause of that spill, similar to the one created after the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. Meanwhile, the crisis has claimed its first professional casualty. Chris Owens, the head of the offshore drilling department at the Mineral Management Service, is stepping down at the end of the month.
Welcome back to Hardball. We continue to see more fallout over that disastrous rig explosion, an oil leak down in the Gulf of Mexico. The chief electronics technician in the Deepwater Horizon rig told 60 Minutes that there were known problems with the blowout preventer in the weeks leading up to the accident. An Associated Press investigation shows that the Minerals Management Service didn't live up to its own inspection policy, and today the top government official who oversees offshore oil drilling for the Minerals Management Service announced his retirement. So how much fault lies with the BP and the other companies associated with the rig, and how much blame lies with the Minerals Management Service of the government for lax oversight? Kate Shepard sits with me now. She's an environmental reporter for Mother Jones, and Abram Lustgarten is with ProPublica. Abram, let me ask you this question first of all. I have a hunch that the reason they don't want to fix this mess down there is because they would admit who did it if they fix it. That nobody is. If this was a nuclear bomb ready to go off, we'd be down there. I am so ranked. I don't even want to talk about it. I get so mad at this oil company. Why aren't they fixing it, first of all?
Well, I think they're doing the best they can, honestly. I mean, drilling at the bottom and operating at the bottom of the ocean or 5,000 feet down maximizes the technological capabilities of the oil industry. It's been likened to space exploration, and I think it's quite similar. So at this point, they may want to hide blame, but at this point, I don't think there's much motivation not to fix the problem if they know how to do that.
Really? You know, I have a suspicion, I'll go back to it again, I don't think they're doing their best. I don't think the government's doing its best. Why doesn't the president go in there and nationalize that industry and get the job done for the people? There's a national interest in this, not just a BP interest. We're letting BP fix a national problem.
Well, I think the national problem really began, years ago, months ago, when we didn't actually properly oversee these industries, when BP said that they could drill safely at a mile below the Gulf. And
yeah, I just heard it right there. If it's so dangerous to go down, if it maximizes their capability, why didn't they tell us that when they went down there?
Well, they clearly didn't tell us that, and MMS and the government.
Oh, it's totally safe to do it until it isn't safe, and then it's our problem. Look at that.
Well, BP definitely has a track record for underplaying, the potential disasters that they could face. I mean, they definitely downplay the risks in all of their operations, whether that's in Alaska or here in the Gulf, and that's part of what's happening here now. Okay, let me ask you. I want to test you, Abram. What went wrong here? Let's just start with that. Do you have a clear idea of where the blame lies? Not who did it, but what was not done that should have been done to prevent this blowout? The picture that seems to be emerging, it sounds familiar. It's one of rushing to cut costs and skipping steps where possible. I think what we heard last night about rushing to replace the drilling mud in the drill tube and replace it with seawater, which allows the gas to flow out, is definitely one significant factor. We've also heard a whole lot about the cementing process, which has been problematic across oil and gas drilling areas, on land and offshore. If the cement doesn't cure properly, or if it's too thin, or if it has cracks in it, then that too allows gas to seep up through it, and that pressure to build up and lead to a blowout.
My brother, who's been in the oil pipeline industry for 30 years, told me that the day it happened. He said the problem is they didn't put mud in, drilling mud in, to jam it into the hole there. They put seawater in. They did it just for cost saving. Is that right? Or speed? Or why would they make a shortcut like that?
That's what we're hearing. That's what we're hearing now, as of last night. And I talked to some experts very close to BP today who were saying that that kind of shortcutting, the replacing the drilling mud with water, could lead to somewhere between $5 and $10 million in savings right there.
Was that a criminal act, do you think?
It's hard to say. I think it's definitely something the Department of Justice will be looking at. And if you look at some of BP's other disasters as an example, I mean, they've gotten felony convictions in several.
In China, it's a more brutal society, Kate, but they execute people for this. Major industrial leaders that commit crimes like this, failure like this. This is a serious, serious problem. Well, it is not over. It continues to destroy a part of our planet, basically, part of our habitat, our American habitat, and everybody just sits and watches television every night. And so, well, that's interesting. And these guys are still drawing their paychecks, still making their profits. The oil industry has been ballooning in profits this year, and nobody's doing anything about it. What are we, the Vatican observers now? We just watch? It is maddening that our government is. Everybody says capitalism is great, unbridled free enterprise is great. Look at it.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is also a problem.
This is great, isn't it?
We've let BP get away with self-regulation, and at the same time, we've had MMS officials who've said, you know, you're right. We weren't testing the blowout preventers. We weren't going through and doing these environmental analyses that you're supposed to do in case something like this happens. Okay. So there's a failure of the government.
Let's draw on the government. You start, Kate. Back in 1973, I investigated the oil pipeline industry on land. 220,000 miles of pipeline. One inspector for the federal government, because the federal government believed in self-regulation, industry self-regulation. It looks to me the way we're looking at this, you guys, is that we still count on the industry to prevent the problem and to fix it. Is that the way we look at it as a government, as a country?
That's absolutely clear, not only to prevent it, to self-regulate on that end, but now we're leaving it up to them to fix this, and we're basically still letting BP run the show down there.
Okay, when's it going to stop? When's the president going to blow the whistle when they fill up the Gulf of Mexico with oil? When's the president going to say we no longer are watching and waiting and seeing how BP's doing?
Well, I mean, I think
they put a straw down there the other day.
Well, I think BP's trying everything, and it's not like it's not like the government has people out there who know how to fix this problem either. Basically, this is a problem we've never confronted before, a spill this size at this far down in the ocean. So no one really knows how to address it. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. Why? Let me ask you, Abraham. We go down there, we dig a hole, we put a pipeline in, but we can't stop up the pipe. Is it as simple as that?
It's as simple as that, except that it's a mile underwater with immense pressures and very remote location. I mean, there's problems with these kind of wells on land in places where they're practiced, by the thousands every year, and so here in this particular location, it's just exceedingly difficult. And the problem is similar to one that you'd see on land, but accessing the well and dealing with it and solving it, and whether you use the junk shot method or any other technology is
maybe
just
we should take the
impossible.
BP executives and the board down there a mile and have them sit down until they fix it. Maybe they come up with something. The idleness of the mind here, they have all the money in the world and all the brains in the world to make the money on the oil. Ballooning profits now for quarter after quarter. Ballooning profits. We're just sitting watching it. And now we're watching them take their time solving this. But you're very compliant here for environmental watchdogs, Kate. I don't understand you guys. You seem to understand their predicament. It's a mile down. Well, they went down a mile to get the oil.
Well, I mean, this is the problem was we shouldn't have allowed them to do this in the first place. We should have said, you know, if you can't drill safely a mile down, you shouldn't be able to drill at all. And I mean, that's where the problem starts. At this point, no one really knows how to address it. That's the problem.
Yeah. Is that your thought, Abraham?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I think accountability is a big factor. I think that if you force the companies before they go and drill in deep water, like in the Gulf, to have proven, solutions for this kind of situation before they go and drill, you'd be in a lot better situation now. I think if the fines when there were violations were significant enough to actually serve as a deterrent, companies like BP would be much more motivated to be confident in their solutions and be confident in their technology before they go in. They invest, hundreds of millions of dollars in the technology to make sure they can get the oil out. They're not going to make a whole lot of mistakes around that, but they tend to cut short the solutions for an emergency situation like this.
Well, there are millions of people in the American right who sit around and say there's no such thing as mankind destroying his environment through climate change or whatever. There's an example of what we're doing right now. We can destroy our habitat on this planet, and it's the only one we've got. Anyway, thank you, Kate Shepard. Thank you, Abraham Lusgard.
Thanks for having me.
Up next.